The FA Cup final is here. This Sunday, Wembley will be dressed in red and blue as holders Manchester United take on Chelsea. It's a repeat of the 2023 final where Chelsea beat Man United, but this is a very different United side. In this video, we preview the final, discussing how United could try and get the better of Chelsea and which key players will make the difference on the biggest stage. This is our FA Cup final preview. Alright, let's get into it then. FA Cup final this Sunday. In this video, we're going to be previewing the action ahead of the game at Wembley. Harry, very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, FA Cup final day is always a brilliant day, a trip to Wembley and an opportunity for sides to get their hands on silverware. And I think that this is a big final in a year where Chelsea have already taken the other two domestic trophies. This is an opportunity for Manchester United to stop Chelsea winning the domestic treble, but to also get their hands on the FA Cup, twice in a row. 3 finals in a row now for United as well. They're loving this trip to Wembley at the moment. Their last trip to Wembley against Chelsea didn't go to plan, but they've got a chance to redeem themselves for that defeat 2 years ago. But it's set up really nicely. It's going to be a very, very good final, and it's very exciting when you get to the business end of the season. The league campaigns are over, and now you get into the cup finals, and this is going to be, I think this is going to be a cup final that really delivers.
It's a shame that even if United do win it, they won't be able to celebrate because Sir Jim Ratcliffe hates all women, apparently.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard. But should be a really exciting game. We've seen these two sides meet already 2 times this season, Harry. What did we learn from those games?
I think that we saw from United, and I think we saw from Skinner, that they're getting there. I think it starts with the FA Cup semi-final last year where United beat Chelsea en route to winning the FA Cup. And then coming into this season, I thought United did really, really well to keep things competitive, and especially the game at Stamford Bridge. They really took the game to Chelsea and Kings Meadow. And really took the game to Chelsea and made it very, very difficult. And it was a closer game. And I do think that United look much closer, have looked much better than they did. I mentioned that final 2 years ago. Chelsea looked a lot better than them on that day. I think United now, they've got a few FA Cup finals under their boot. Now they've got their own FA Cup. They are the reigning holders. I think they come into this with a lot more experience, and I think that their aim will be to be competitive for the whole game and really try and cause Chelsea some issues, because Chelsea haven't been brilliant at the end of the year. They've got the job done and they've got the results over the line, but United will sense an opportunity to really take what they can from the 2 games in the league and really use it in this final to try and get one over the Blues.
Yeah, so we saw Manchester United win that last year, their first major trophy in the women's game. I think what we've now got to see is United go head-to-head with teams like Chelsea, with Arsenal, with Manchester City, because obviously they beat Tottenham in the final, and while that is still a good achievement, I don't think it's the same as beating a Chelsea in the final. And obviously they beat Chelsea en route to the final last year, but I think, there's a lot we can talk about with that game, with the way in which it went down. But yeah, I think if you think about coming into this final, United a lot to prove, I think.
Yeah.
They want to get one over Chelsea. This season they lost both games 1-0. Does that mean we already know the result for this one? Seems fairly obvious. I think United will be well up for it. Skinner wants to claim another trophy. If they win this, then that's 2 years in a row they've won something in an era where Manchester City haven't won anything in that time period, and Arsenal have only won 1 Conti Cup. I think it would make them the second most successful side over the last 3 years. So, yeah, I think they want to put themselves in that position where they are looking very competitive with Chelsea.
Yeah, I think it's an achievement in its own right to get to 3 FA Cup finals in a row. It shows that consistency. It shows that they are at the top level. It is very difficult for top sides because of the nature of knockout football. It is very difficult to get to the final every single year. You see that in every competition across football. So United, I think they've done very, very well. But as you say, I think beating Chelsea at Wembley is that next step. That FA Cup, the FA Cup win last year, the final, Tottenham didn't put up a challenge. They beat Chelsea in controversial circumstances. Man City knocked out Arsenal, and then Man City got knocked out by Tottenham. So in that part, United didn't. The other teams kind of fell away, and United were the ones there to pick up the pieces. This season, their run has been pretty nice. They've had quite a decent run to the final. I have to say.
They had Man City in the semis, whereas Chelsea played Liverpool. I'd argue They had the much. I know City were depleted at the
I
time,
know, but the
but
games before that, United were, they were bringing up championship side after championship side, and
it's true.
they went around smashing Wolves, and was it West Brom was the other one as well, and I think
Did they play Sunderland or was last year?
that was last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. But I get, as you say, they did beat City, and I think that beating City in the semis and beating Chelsea in the final would be better than what they did last year. So that would be That's the aim. I think it's key for Skinner to not to overthink it. I think that's the main thing with Sim for Man United is that if Skinner just plays their game, if he focuses on his own team, I think that Man United will have a really good opportunity of challenging Chelsea in this final.
Yeah.
If Skinner overthinks it and tries to play a way that, in terms of, he'll focus on stopping Chelsea rather than playing his own way, that could be to United's downfall. They've got to play their football and hope that them playing their own stuff will be enough to stop Chelsea.
Well, speaking of what the United team might look like, let's discuss team news for Manchester United. We expect Tyler's choice will be the goalkeeper. That would be a surprise if it was anyone else. Right back, Jade Riviere. Have we heard anything on her?
I haven't seen anything.
Don't think she's going to be fit to play.
Yeah.
So it looks like it'll be Aoife Mannion back from suspension at right back. Centre backs, presumably Turner and Letitia. Left back, Gabrielle George. How much of a loss is Jade Riviere in a game like this?
Absolutely massive, especially when you look at the quality gap between Riviere and Mannion. If Riviere is ready to go, then I think that's a massive plus. If she can only give you a half or 60 minutes, you play her for that 60 minutes and then you bring her off. At the end of the day, you're going into the end of the season from a selfish point of view for Man United. They will risk Riviere in this game. Because
she's also a player that doesn't have a Euros coming up, so it's not like. I mean, obviously you don't want players to be injured.
She might if she gets called up.
What, for Canada?
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting this. Okay, yeah, never mind. That's a good point. So she has got a summer off. I don't know why I keep thinking she's French. Honestly, but yeah, I think that United will be selfish and they will risk it, even if there's a push of further injury.
Yeah.
But because they will drop that, they lose a lot of quality without Riviere, and I think that if Mannion plays, then whoever plays on the left for Chelsea is going to cause a lot of problems for United. We saw it in the Arsenal game when neither Mannion or Riviere were there. That down that left hand side, whether it was Caitlin Ford or it was Kelly, whoever played on that left, was causing so many issues for United, and they could for United, and they just couldn't handle it. So if they don't have a recognised right back, they're going to be in big trouble. Mannion coming, well, they do have Mannion back, but Riviere, we spoke about how good she's been in our in season video. Not having her in this game would be a massive loss.
We've spoken about how good she is in quite a lot of videos recently. Yeah. If you look back at our Man United review, the contrast between when she was on the pitch in the first 20 minutes and then the next 40 minutes when Mannion was on the pitch and then the 30 minutes when she wasn't anymore, that there was such a huge difference there in between Riviere and Aoife Mannion. So I think it's a big loss for Manchester United, bigger than I think most people anticipate. Looking at the pivot then, surely Dominique Janssen starts this game.
Yeah, she has to come in. I understand why recently they've gone to Clinton and Miyazawa because they've been playing against weaker opposition and they want to be more attacking. But as we saw against Arsenal, when they didn't have Janssen in that pivot, they got overran in that midfield. And to be honest, they got overran by an Arsenal pivot that's been really poor in the recent weeks. So that shows everything to me. Dominique Janssen has to start in the pivot. They cannot go. Clinton and Miyazawa is way too aggressive, especially against Chelsea's midfield three. If they play Clinton and Miyazawa, they will get overran because there's just not that defensive solidity in there.
But on that, Clinton or Miyazawa, that's a really difficult decision. Who edges it for you here?
Miyazawa for me. She has to be. She's been brilliant this season, and again, I think in this game, United are looking. Yes, they want to get attacking opportunities, but I think that they need to focus on being stable, having that solid spine and just retaining possession, keeping themselves on the ball.
I think Miyazawa gives you a bit of both as well. I mean, it's easy to forget that she was a forward before she came to Manchester United. She was the top goal scorer at the 23 World Cup. So, she's a very good player going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if Clinton's preferred for this one, but my personal pick would be Miyazawa as well. If I was predicting the lineup, though, I think they'll go with Clinton.
Yeah.
I think attack midfield, it'll be Ella too. That's a fairly obvious one. Again, big game player, someone who needs a good performance, I think, has had a better second half of this season. But I still feel like, big performance here, and it gets me excited about Toon again going into the Euros. Right wing Bizet, left wing Galton, leading the line. Elizabeth Turland. Is there a shout for Mallard?
I think there is a shout, and also we did see Mallard coming to lead the line against Arsenal. She came off the bench against City and got the goal. But is that
resting Turland for the final?
Yeah, I think we will see Turland, especially because United will try and target getting the ball into Turland, then using Turland to play into other players. I don't think United will want to play that route one ball over the top to Mallard. They'll bring in Turland, look to get to hold the ball up against Brighton and Bjorn or whoever plays for Chelsea, and then be laying that ball in, out to Bize, out to Goughton, or back into Toon to create something.
I do think, though, the best way to hurt Chelsea is on the counter, so I think they will look to use Melvin Mallard. But as you say, I think they'll start with Turland, bring in Mallard once that defence is tiring, look to get those runs in behind. If the game's still tight, I think they could nick it in that way. That's one way that United could definitely take this game. Talking at Chelsea then, clean bill of health for the Blues by Lauren James and obviously the long-term injuries. So, good to see Maya Ramirez returning to the fold. Do you think she'll start this game?
I think so. I think that Ramirez hasn't had a brilliant season, and that I think that is something that a lot of people would agree with. But she is a big game player. She comes.
I would struggle to see an argument to say the opposite.
Yeah, that
she's
is
had
true,
a good season because the numbers aren't there, and we've not really seen it out on the field.
I think that for Ramirez, though, this is a big opportunity. This is a big game that she can really get her teeth into. If she can get on the shoulder of Turner and Letitia and use her strength to try and bully them, I think that we'll see what we've seen Ramirez try and do in the other fixtures against Man United, which is Chelsea will look to come down the left hand side, their right hand side, United's left hand side, and get Ramirez on the shoulder of Turner. That's a key battle. If Ramirez does start, is that for Chelsea they need to get Ramirez in on that right hand side, because if Ramirez is up against Letitia will do a very, very good job at keeping her out of the game.
Well, Letitia is an aggressor and a very physical player. I think what we've seen though is that she can deal with Ramirez relatively well. As you say, if she gets one-on-one with Turner, I think it's a different story. I think Ramirez could have a lot of joy. That's going to be very difficult to do though, because Letitia will be keen to stay touch tight with Ramirez. So I think it's going to be a really difficult game again for Maya Ramirez. And actually, I think the problem is her contribution goes undervalued. Teams will double up on Ramirez. They'll focus on Ramirez. And often, Ramirez creates space with her movement, dragging players out of position for other players. Now, that doesn't get noted. There's no dragged positions out of players per 90 statistic. So instead, you don't really see. It's more of a qualitative contribution, but it's one that's often not noted. I think this is the sort of game where she could have that same effect. If she can drag Letitia miles out of position with her movement and make those runs in behind that perhaps catch United's players out, make them panic, then she creates space for other players. I do think it's a big shame for Chelsea not to have the big game players in this. I think that could make a difference. No Lauren James, the kind of player that steps up on this kind of stage. No Sam Kerr, kind of player that steps up on this kind of stage. But Chelsea still have a very good team. In goal, you'd expect to be Hannah Hampton. Back four writes itself at this stage, really. Bronze, Bright, Bjorn. And, well, actually, is there a shout for Germa, or do you think it'll be Brighton Bjorn? Is there a shout for Charles, or do you think it'll be Baltimore?
I think that they're both interesting questions. Obviously, I think Chelsea, as you say, will go back to the back four. We won't see the back three or back five that we saw against Liverpool.
Bloody well hope not.
Yeah, I think it has to be Brighton Bjorn. I think you have to stick with the trusted partnership this season. I think Germa has come in and she hasn't played enough for me to warrant starting in an FA Cup final. And Bjorn, Bright is your captain and your leader, and Bjorn has been exceptional this season. So I don't think you can drop either of them. Between Baltimore and Charles, it's a really difficult question. I think that Baltimore has been brilliant, but I think Sonia will go Baltimore in this game just because Baltimore has been we've seen over the season she's been favoured to play in the big games, but I do think this is the type of game that potentially Neve Charles could come into. If you want to be a little bit more solid, if you want to be a little bit more secure as a back
my argument. The only argument for Charles is that she'll come in and make life much more difficult for Celine Bize, which could be very useful.
Yeah.
So I think there's an argument there, but I think it will be Sandy Baltimore, gives Chelsea more of an attacking outlet on that left flank. I think they'll prefer that in this game. They'll look to try and win this game in a more dominant fashion, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's not a game like Barcelona where they're going to have to try and sit off or anything like that. And the midfield pivot, Cuthbert Walsh. Any arguments with that?
Yeah, well, also I think it probably will be the single pivot with Walsh sitting in there, and then Cuthbert and whoever playing alongside it. That's a
surely Hamano.
But yeah, potentially. I think that
could be captain.
I think Chelsea that is we spoke about this again in Chelsea's initial video. That's the position for Chelsea that we haven't really seen locked down. Is that other central midfielder?
It's the one position where they probably don't have one of the top players in the league.
Yeah.
I think Hamano is one of the top players in the league. She's just been out for about a month now. But if she is fit to play, I think she plays.
Yeah.
Obviously, Lauren Jones could play that 10 role, but she's out injured. Kat Macario could play that 10 role, but I think they'll prefer her as an option off the bench up front. So, yeah, I would play Hermano. I think it will probably be Captain that starts in that role.
Yeah.
Left flank, Guro Wrighton.
Has to be. Big game, FA Cup final. If Guro's ready, Guro has to play. Guro Wrighton on her day can win finals for Chelsea. We know she has the ability to completely turn games around and to completely take control of a game. So yeah, Guro has to be nailed on for me.
Right wing, Carter Reid or Beaver Jones.
I think again you have to go off form. Beaver Jones has been brilliant to end the season, and if you're going to bring Ramirez back in leading the line, you have to put Beaver Jones somewhere on the pitch, and I think that will probably be on the right. We haven't seen enough from Carter Reid in the last few weeks to warrant starting in this final. I think Beaver Jones.
She will though. That's the thing. I think she will. I don't necessarily hate the idea of her starting the final. I think she's a very good player, but as you say, we haven't really seen much from her. Second half of the season, first half of the season, blistering. If we get that player, sign me up. But that's not what we've had. So I think there is some concern there. But overall, I think Chelsea have the stronger team. They've got players who know how to win things. The favour should be with the Blues.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup in terms of to start the season, we saw Chelsea come out, be dominant and blow sides out the water. Second half of the season, they've been much more controlled and have been really focusing on just grinding out the result, winning one, controlling the game and winning by one or two goals. Now, obviously, if Chelsea look to do that again, fine, that could work. I don't expect Chelsea to come out and completely dominate this final. I don't expect them to come out and play Man United off the park. I think they'll look to be that controlled team again and try and win the game 1-0, 2-0. But the problem with that is in knockout football, that can catch you out sometimes. It nearly caught Chelsea out in the semi-final because it took them 93 minutes to score the winning goal. In a cup final, though, if Chelsea do try and play controlled and are only 1-0 up for the majority of the game, United will always hang in there. And I think that could be I think Chelsea being controlled really does help them. It's a lot more calm and they have a lot more of the ball, and it's difficult for the other side to get a touch. But the problem is that a cup final being at 1-0 means that the opposition are always still in the game, and that could be the problem. Is that Chelsea don't come out and they aren't free flowing and go and score 2 or 3 goals. If it remains the longer it remains 0-0, if Chelsea only go 1-0 up and it stays at 1-0, the game will start to lean towards Man United and they'll find themselves getting in, they'll find themselves putting Chelsea under pressure and turning that ball over. And suddenly, if United score, then it's straight to extra time. And I think that the way Chelsea's been playing football recently makes this final a lot more even than it probably should be, because I think the Chelsea of old, the Chelsea of the first half of the season, Chelsea under Hayes would probably come out and scored a few goals, potentially given up a little bit more of the ball, and potentially given up a goal or 2 in there, but come out and go and win the final 3-1, 2-1, whatever. I think Sonia von Bastor will look to be controlled, look to win narrowly, which I think it could be interesting. Also, if they come out and control the ball and win 1-0, that's absolutely fine. But the problem with playing that way is that you always give United an opportunity, and United have got the players that in attacking areas can really hurt Chelsea.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting game of football. 80,000 tickets sold. Wembley is going to be a hive of atmosphere. I'm looking forward to the game, Harry. Should be good fun. If you're a Chelsea fan that's going to the game and you spot us, feel free to come and say hi. If you're a Manchester United fan, I hope you have a wonderful journey there and a horrible journey home. But we will be back on Monday to review the FA Cup final. And as I say, if you're going, come and find us. That, though, is everything from us today. Oh, actually, score prediction, because we're not streaming it. Let's do a score prediction.
True.
Forgot that.
I think Chelsea will nick it narrowly. I will go 2-1 with Chelsea to win it in extra time. I think what I was saying there will happen. Chelsea will take the lead 1-0. They won't kill the game off, though. United will pull it back late on, send us to extra time. But Chelsea, with the strength and depth in extra time, will nick it for me.
I'd quite like to get home before 9 o'clock. So I'm going to say Chelsea 3, Manchester United 0.
Wow.
That's between 0 and 1. Yeah, I'm confident. I think Chelsea want to end the season on a high. Okay. I think they've played some really nice stuff. And we've seen a bit of a capitulation for United recently. They haven't won their last 4 matches. They've lost to Chelsea and Arsenal, and obviously drawn with Man City in there. I think there's an opportunity here for Chelsea to take advantage of that. I think they'll see the fact they only got 1, City got 2, Arsenal got 4. and I think they'll want to up their tally against United this season.
Yeah, fair enough. Weird things happen at the home of football. Let's see.
Exactly. I think they'll crumble at Wembley, and everyone will blame Mark Skinner.
Okay,
That's my prediction.
yeah.
See you Monday. Other than that, thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.